Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh, everyone. Okay, today, inshallah, we will be discussing we will be continuing discussing the Dahul Mulk, and we have been reading a few of the sections just to remind a little bit. The fourth phrase is Dahul Mulk, and in this we have been discussing a few phrases and a few sections explaining those phrases. We went through first through third last week, and we read through fourth, but of course we didn't really have time to discuss the details. So inshallah, I will read through fourth section again, and we can inshallah start discussing with our speakers. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Fourth section. His art in the former displays it as a book, while his coloring in the latter shines through speech. Its meaning is this: the glorious maker's art in the macrocosm, the bigger universe, is so meaningful that because it is manifested in the form of a book, thus making the universe into a huge volume, the human intellect has extracted the library of true natural science and philosophy from it, and has written the library accordingly. And that book of wisdom is bound to reality and draws assistance from reality to such a degree that it has been proclaimed in the form of the all-wise Quran, which is a copy of that huge manifested book. Moreover, just as his art in the universe is in the form of a book, describing its perfect orderedness, so too his coloring and the inscription of his wisdom in man has opened the flower of speech. That is, his art is so meaningful, sensitive, and beautiful that it has caused the components of that animate machine, the human being, to speak as though they were gramophones. It has given man such a lordly coloring in his fairest of forms that the flower of speech and expression, which is immaterial, insubstantial, and living, has opened in his material, corporeal, and solid head. And it has equipped the power of speech and expression, which is situated in man's head, with such exalted tools and abilities that it has caused it to develop and progress to a degree whereat he becomes the addressee of the pre-eternal monarch. That is, the lordly coloring in man's essential nature has opened the flower of divine address. Is it at all possible that anything other than the single one of unity could interfere in that art in creatures, which is so high as to be in the form of a book, and in that coloring in man, whereby he attains to the station of speech and address? Allah forbid. So inshallah, I'll stop here. Just to summarize in my own words a little bit, is we are discussing the macrocosm, the universe, in the form of a book, and within that universe, the human being, and its ability to speak as proofs of the single one of unity, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala owning everything. So inshallah, I would like to turn to our speakers a little bit to share their insights on this section and any reflections on this proof of the manifestation in the universe as a book, and also manifestation in the human beings as speech. How should we understand this? Maybe, Nojam, should we turn to you first, inshallah?
You're the boss. You can turn to whomever you wish.
Okay, since you were here last time too, you had some head start, so maybe inshallah you can lead us off.
It's interesting when different people read the Risale. It's a different voice and it's a different time, and you get something different from it each time. And it's a long time since I read this on my own. But what comes today from maybe even the way you read it, I don't know, is that speech, which you can hear now, is an intensification of communication. In other words, when you look out and you see the sky, as I can see now, and the trees, and everything out there, it's telling me certain things. It's communicating something to me, and with or without revelation, I can tell that it's saying something. I can tell it's speaking. But the intensification of communication, in other words, if you distill it, it's like if you boil up sugar and water, it gets thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker, becomes more intense. Communication, it's very nuqteh kamal, its highest point, its highest, its apogee, if you wish, the zenith of communication is verbal speech, which is strange because it's intensified and yet it's immaterial. It doesn't actually have an external existence, speech. If you think about it, even human speech is a kind of approximation of immaterial divine speech, because as I'm speaking now, air is passing over the organs in my mouth, the different things that help to produce speech, but it's actually air. Okay, air is not completely immaterial, we know, but it corresponds with immateriality. So my words, as they go out into the cosmos and they continue forever, they are immaterial words. You can't capture them in your hand. This is a miracle of creation. What Ustad is saying here is that the whole universe is speaking, but in humankind, who is endowed with speech, that speech is a kind of intensified, distilled kind of communication. And the fact that it is immaterial and it comes forward or comes out of, this mouth of flesh, this tongue of flesh, these bones, these jaws, is a miracle in itself. It's something living coming out of something corporeal, which in and of itself isn't living. It has life in it, but in itself, it's not living. So this is what I'm getting. It may be relevant to the general flow of the conversation, but this is my first impression anyway.
No, thank you, Jazakallah khair. It's really very important point, and indeed very relevant too, right? In terms of speech is such a wonder by itself too, right? That it is out of a lot of things that are not living, human being existing, and also the speech, right? As you said, out of thin air, literally, these flowers of speech, and this similarly analogy to a flower of speech being opened is also, I think, interesting. Jazakallah khair. Thank you for this lovely introduction to the topic. Maybe I'll turn to Fatih Abi. Do you have any insights that you would like to share with us? Or
Yeah, I'm already
Go ahead.
this week, most probably. I'm outside.
Oh, okay. You're not able to. Okay. We might have others like Nebi Abi or Hikmet Abi. If you would like to join in, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, we can continue on to fifth as well.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers.
Alaikum salam.
Yeah, the universe is mentioned as a book here, then it must be read, but it's also a copy of the All-Wise Quran. That means that All-Wise Quran is coming from the attribute speech, kalam. Then the universe is coming from Qudra, then the attribute Tekwin. Then those two books has relations then one is a copy of the other. Maybe one is tafsir of the other. If we want to understand the all-wise Quran, then if we examine the universe, then we can come to some of the messages coming from all-wise Quran. When we examine the universe as a book, then we can also approach to some meaning of the all-wise Quran, when we deeply examine the universe. Then if we also try to read and conclude, ponder upon the all-wise Quran, there are so many verses mentioning about the book of the universe at the same time. Then, since the one of the feature of the human being is mentioned here, the speech, also this is, I think, one of the distinguishing feature of the human being from the other beings. Human being has a intensified speech. The others may have also some communication, but human being communication is, I think, at the top level. Therefore, that speech is also coming from attribute kalam. Since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has attribute kalam, then human being as a creature, but the most exalted and most perfect creature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he has also a kind of speech. Then that speech makes him superior over the other creatures at the same time. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Nebi Abi. It was a great explanation, and it's great that you have connected these to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names of Kalam, and also the attributes of Kalam and Qudra, and right about the Quran, manifestation of Kalam, as well as the speech in human being is a manifestation of that as well. So there is that definite connection. And I guess one point that we have been talking about in terms of like Lahul Mulk is right. I mean, one who owns the small part should already should also own the bigger part as well. So, inshallah, I guess my eyes were looking for Nazif Abi, but of course he's not here, I guess. If there are any other thoughts, we can get them from other participants. Otherwise, I can also start with the fifth section. I guess Recep Abi, you can go ahead. I've unmuted you, I guess.
Good evening. Assalamu alaikum, brothers. I will again refer back to the human ideas in past. Normally, when these great minds looked at the nature, they saw something in their minds, and this categorization of the objects was the main concern of all of these people in past. And according to this classification, they understood, they came to the conclusion that this creation should have been in that way, or it could not have been in any other way. So in that way, they thought, Mujibi Bizzat, he called Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, he should have created in this way. There was no other option for him to create. I mean, even in Muslim understanding, this idea blossomed because of this classification, in fact. So Hazret Ustad refers to this idea, I mean, several times in Risale-i Nur, and then just implies these ideas by saying that there are such interesting things that are normally out of this normal flow of this nature. I mean, if think that you have a kind of intellect out of this nature, and then you are just checking what is going on, a high intellect, in fact. And in that case, for instance, I will give you an example. When we look at the nature, the creation of honey, for instance, it is totally out of this order, in fact, because I mean, there is no other example. There is no categorization of this kind of thing in the nature. This is just created with some extraordinary things. And normally, I mean, if you look at this one with that intellectual, this should not be there in the normal creation, in the categorization of this nature. That is quite strange thing, and this is peculiar thing to only to the bees. I mean, there is no other example of this one. That is quite interesting thing, and in fact, human speech is one of these things. If you step by step categorize all of these things and come to the point that, I mean, human speech occurs there, that is quite strange thing. I mean, any intellect could not come to this conclusion, could not see this one. This is totally out of the natural flow of the things, and this is not material. Hazrat Ustad also underlines this point. So today's sciences try very hard to explain this by giving some synapse and other the connections between the nerves and other things. These are very childish explanations, in fact. So, for instance, how can I speak now? How can I bring all of these together? You see, I mean, this is quite strange thing. I mean, this is so strange that, I mean, more stranger than this, what I mentioned, strange, is that this is very normal. It comes very normal to us. You see, I mean, we are ordinarily talking. I mean, no problem with this one. Even this makes it even more and more interesting. So this is something out of nature, out of the normal flow of the nature. And Hazrat Ustad mentions such things, but just by giving this example that, I mean, he creates whatever he wills, in fact. I mean, because this seems out of nature. This should not be there normally. In the normal flow of the creation, this should not be there. That is quite intricate idea, intricate point. I can just say these things because sometimes words cannot be sufficient to express some opinions. I will just stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, this is very interesting. Just to summarize, right? I mean, what you have just said, Recep Abi, I think right, some people might think of it out of our mind. Sometimes might be thinking that there is some sort of like a laws in the universe that just continues, and even unfortunately trying to extend that to the creator too, that as if he's supposed to follow certain set of rules, that we're thinking, right? That's why those ideas such as Mujibi Bizzat and things like that emerge. But what you are saying, the example of the honey and example of human speech, is actually telling us that no, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has interference, effect, and in every single thing, because if we just want to explain certain things with natural laws and stuff, things such as honey or human speech shouldn't have come into place, because it's really out of the ordinary how these things come to existence. So
come to existence, yes. How these things come to existence.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair. This is really good insights. If there are any other thoughts,
one more. Salam alaikum again.
Yeah,
you know, a gramophone is mentioned there. You know, gramophone.
Yeah.
I think gramophone is one of the machine. First time, it is a mechanical thing, but it is giving sound. Then it's like speaking. That machine. For example, such a machine, first time somebody saw, oh, that machine is speaking. Huh? Then who has done this? That machine cannot come to existence just itself, but that somebody must do this. He has done this. That such a gramophone, first time, if we see, we will astonish, But when we see people are speaking, there is a tongue there. That tongue is made up of flesh. But we are pushing air through our throat. Then it is passing through the tongue and the throat. Then it is expressing so many words, and some meaningful things are coming to existence. This is really an extraordinary, like a really extraordinary thing. When we see such a machine, we will say, "Oh, we will astonish how extraordinary machine it is. It's speaking." Then that flesh is speaking. Then at the head there is a mouth and there is a tongue. Then we are speaking, and we are giving some meaningful words coming out of our mouth. This is also an extraordinary miracle. It can only be created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even though the first thing is with our intention, but the creation of the sound and the words, meaningful things, can only be done by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, indeed. Jazakallah khair. And I think this is probably pretty familiar and relevant to our times to some extent, right? Because we have seen things like ChatGPT and things, right, where we have these large language models that are trying to mimic and imitate human speech and human language models. And we also know that they fail at some times, and they take like extraordinary amount of effort and stuff just to imitate human speech, human language, and we find it astonishing with great efforts. But from nothingness, from something without any previous example to mimic, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this notion of speech in the human head and does it continuously with every person coming to the world. So it is from that perspective we should be much more amazed at human speech than we are at these ChatGPT and things like this. But yeah, thank you very much, Nebi Abi. Before we go to fifth section, sometimes Kon Hocam might have certain thoughts after others to sum things up, but do you have any additional insights after what we already talked about?
No, I'm just no, not really. I'm just enjoying what Nebi is saying and what Rajab was saying.
Okay.
Speech is something miraculous, and I think what's happened is we are disenchanted. We have become disenchanted, not strictly speaking in the sense that Weber meant, but it's not unconnected either. We've forgotten how to see things as wondrous because we've become acclimatized to thinking everything as natural. This is a huge tragedy for the human race, unfortunately, partly Aristotle's fault. But we perpetuated this idea of things being natural. It's a huge, how can I say, it's a weapon that's used against us. When we say something is natural, it means that we don't give it any more thought. We don't think how it got there. We don't think who was responsible for it. We don't think of the artistry that's involved in its creation, whether it's just a speck of dirt or whether it's an elephant. We say it's natural. That means we don't have to think anymore. We don't wonder. And so this nature, Ustad was very prescient about the whole idea of causality and the need for us to repudiate it, to debunk it. And he did a very good job. One of the reasons that we don't think about these things, and I think that Rajab was talking about, certain things are, like sui generis, as they say. They are absolutely unique and you wouldn't expect it. You wouldn't, if you waited for thousands of years, you wouldn't expect that to happen. Human speech is one of them. Human speech is miraculous. It liberated us. Actually, it liberates us as beings. If you watch a child learning to speak, the way that it becomes liberated from, having just to make crying sounds or having to point at things, not being able to articulate things, able to talk about things which are not in our presence, which is very important. Of course, this is miraculous, but do we think it's miraculous? No, because we're disenchanted. I think the Risale is one way of re-enchanting humankind. So we all need it, actually.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you. Thank you for summing this up. It was really meaningful. Thank you. Okay, inshallah, I will start reading the fifth section, and inshallah, after that, we can discuss that too. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Fifth section. His power in the former reveals his majesty, while his mercy in the latter arrays his bounty. It has this meaning. Divine power in the macrocosm, the universe, demonstrates the majesty of his lordship, whereas lordly mercy arrays his bounties in man, who is the microcosm. That is, the Maker's power in respect of grandeur and glory, Jalal, creates the universe in the form of a palace so magnificent that its sun is a mighty electric light, its moon a lamp, and its stars candles, gilded fruits and scattered lights, while the face of the earth is a laden table, an arable field, a garden, a carpet, and its mountains, each a storehouse, a mast, a fortress, and so on. He demonstrates the majesty of his lordship in brilliant fashion by, on a vast scale, making all things into the huge palace's necessities. And his mercy, in respect of beauty, Jamal, bestows on all creatures with spirits, and even on the minutest animate creatures, the varieties of his bounties, ordering their beings with them. He adorns them from head to toe with the bounties, embellishing them abundantly, munificently. He has counterpoised the beauty of his mercy and that glorious majesty, those microscopic tongues, and that vast tongue. That is, while the huge heavenly bodies like the suns and constellations are proclaiming with the tongue of majesty, O glorious one, O mighty one, O august one, those tiny animate creatures like flies and fishes are declaring, but with the tongue of mercy, O beautiful one, O compassionate one, O generous one. They are adding their gentle songs to that great orchestra, sweetening it. Is it at all possible that anything other than the all-glorious one of beauty and all-beauteous one of glory could have any part in the creation of the is it all possible that anything other than the all-glorious one of beauty and all-beauteous one of glory could have any part in creation of the macrocosm and microcosm? Allah forbid. So in this part, especially, I think the Jalal and Jamal, especially in the bigger universe, the manifestation of names around Jalal, right? The Jalil, and the names like Jalil and Azim, Kabir, those things are, especially with like stars and constellations, is being brought to attention, but also in the smaller scale, like the Jamal, the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who are related to Jamal, right? Like Jamil, Rahman, Kareem, all these names are being put to our attention. So I would like to, inshallah, get some thoughts. Maybe, maybe we can get someone other than Colin Hocam first so that we give him a break. I know, Nebi Abi, would you like to chime in to this?
Assalamu alaikum. I will try. I will try, inshallah.
Inshallah.
This in description, the sun is like the candle, the stars, also the electric lights. The surface of the earth has to be illuminated. Since I'm electrical engineer, we have got one course illumination. In the illumination, the lux, lumen, and also intensity of the light, glare effect. So many things are important. We were trying to bring the lighting illumination as close to as the sun's lighting. For example, if we try to illuminate an area, a stadium, for example, maybe hundreds of light bulbs are installed in huge, huge, very, very tall. Direk. What was direk?
Yeah, because made towers even, right? They're almost like towers.
Anyhow, yeah. But so many light bulbs are installed at heights. Then we try to make a homogeneous lighting there. Then if we see such a stadium lighting, for example, it has been illuminated very nice. Then there is an engineering, there is a technical stuff behind this. There is a project there, but hundreds of light bulbs are installed to illuminate a stadium, But the surface of the earth is illuminated only by one lamp, the sun. But it's not only the lighting element, it's also the energy source of all energy used on the surface of the earth is coming generally mainly from the sun. If we say hydroelectric, it's also due to sun, since with sun's lighting on the surface of the oceans, the seas, then evaporation of the water, then it's also the sun. The petroleum is also due to sun. Then the sun is there with one lamp. All the surface of the earth is illuminated. But at the same time, it is illuminating. At the same time, it is giving heat like oven. That at the same time, it's giving to the solar panels. It's also giving energy. Then so nice lighting and so nice electric stars, electric lamps. Also the other stars. For example, during nighttime. I'm on the mountain now, and during nighttime we'll see maybe billions of small bulbs are also illuminating. Then such a lighting, such an illumination necessitates a designer, a maker, a huge, all-powerful one behind those things. Thank you.
Thank you, Jazakallah khair. Yeah, and indeed, these analogies, right, is really striking as well. Like sun as one mighty electric light, moon, a lamp, like a night lamp, right, and the stars, candles, and those are huge beings in the universe. It really shows like how powerful, right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, how his manifestation with Jalal is such powerful that he uses huge objects like stars as candles for us, to serve us, subhanAllah. Indeed, it shows, as Nabi Abi said, a great engineering, but also a great power that uses these huge objects to serve the human being, and probably the value of human being as well. Is also seen with his Jamal and the names that are around Jamal, like Kareem and Rahim and all those. Thank you very much. Maybe we'll turn back to Colin Ajam. Do you have any insights on these Jalal and Jamal about the universe and the human being and the smaller objects, actually not only human being but tiny animate creatures who are also showing the Jamali names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Do I have insights? Maybe not. I maybe have impressions. What Nebi was talking about, the things which have been enumerated, the lamp, the sun as a lamp, for example, the earth as a spread, the dome of the heavens, as a ceiling, all of these things. Before, when we were talking about being disenchanted, and I sort of said quite, I don't know, not thinking really that, Ustad is here to re-enchant us. Actually, he is, because when he describes, he talks about the sun, he talks about it as a lamp. Now, that should make us more familiar with the sun, rather than thinking that it is just a star, or just a collection of atomic reactions, or whatever you hear the scientists calling the sun. But to see it as a lamp makes it immediate. It makes it present, in our consciousness, because we all have lamps in our house. To see the universe as a house, to see it as a mosque, the way that Ustad describes these things, these are the important things, because he's trying to refamiliarize us with the creation, as our forefathers were. It was familiar to them. It was everyday to them. It was immediate to them. They didn't see themselves as separate, but people today, they see themselves as separate. If you say that you are related intimately to the sun, they may try to find some obscure, I don't know, scientific formula that can show that somehow we are connected to the sun on the molecular level or whatever. But the thing is, the sun is our brother or sister, or however you wish to, conceptualize the sun. Like Ustad used to call trees auntie, for example. And the Prophet ﷺ also used to have names for inanimate objects. These are very important psychological, I don't want to say tricks, because it makes it sound as though they're underhand, but these are psychological tactics in order to familiarize us again with this thing that we've lost. We've lost this uns, we are insan, but we have no uns with creation. Insan is someone who should have uns with the creation, a sense of camaraderie, a sense of togetherness, a sense of being from the same creator, and we've lost that. And so when Ustad talks about these things, he talks about them in terms of familiar objects, everything that we're all used to. That's what struck me mostly. So no insight, but just impression.
No, Jazakallah, great reminder for all of us, right? And I think, right, what you said is really important, right? That he refamiliarizes us with these concepts, because we actually forgot, right? I mean, it is the Quran itself that mentions sun as a lamp, right? As siraj, right? And it is again Quran who tells us to look at the camel, look at the stars, look and see if we can find anything broken in the skies, and that we cannot, right? In Surah Al-Mulk. So, but with sciences and how science trying to explain things, or maybe making it back to Recep Abi's point about like normalizing certain things on us, making it sound like this is all normal, this is all part of how things work in nature. As you said, Kuna, we have lost the uns, the familiarity and camaraderie with the universe, with the nature, with like trees, stars, everything, right? And probably the city life and stuff doesn't help that situation either. But inshallah, by reading these topics and thinking and contemplating on them, inshallah, we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant us with that understanding, inshallah. Any other thoughts from our other participants about these topics? Maybe from Mustafa Polat abi or Ali abi.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
Yeah, the part Khalid Hocam has mentioned, and you also, Nebi abi, has discussed. So in the last week, lesson, we discussed the Ahadiyya and Wahidiyya. So we are also reading here how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put the universe in one form, but He is showing different dimensions in His universe, in His creation, while showing His unity in everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made His Jamali and Jalali Tajalliyat. So in the whole creation, we are observing His glory, His so in the macrocosm, we are reading His Jalal, how he has beautified the stars when the heavens with the stars. We are astonished on this greatness. So He is showing He is all glorious, Almighty One, August One. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is. So we are unable to, of course, grasp the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is helping, running to our assistance with His mercy in the small creatures. He is showing His beauty. He is showing His Jamal. He is the one adorning all these beautiful creatures on the face of the earth. So here Ustad is using the expression of orchestra. This is very beautiful expression. In the orchestra there are big volume of the voice and also the small volume of the voice. But every equipment in the orchestra, they are making a voice. The small voices and big voices are acting together. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the universe like an orchestra, making the heavens speaking, "Oh glorious One, Almighty One." Also on the face of the earth, the small creatures, they are saying the names of Ya Jamil, Ya Rahim, Ya Kareem. So adding to the big volume of the voice in the creation, with their small voices, declaring the how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all beautiful one, how He is Kareem. So of course, making the whole universe in this harmony, in this unity, mixing the big volumes and the small volumes together. So cannot be other than the creator of this universe, making them in perfect balance, making them in perfect beauty. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Jazakallah khair. Thank you. Yeah, that a balance, right, and this harmony, as you suggested, Jazmavi, is definitely a very important part here, right? Because again, it's not just creating them, but running them at the same time all together with seemingly opposing manifestations, right? These Jalali manifestations, these like glorious manifestations like the stars and planets and stuff, but at the same time very Jamali, very subtle, Latif, all these manifestations that are or beautiful manifestations of the flowers and things, they're all coming together, they're assisting one another, they're working in harmony with each other. And it can be no one other than the creator of the universe who actually runs this orchestra, right? Runs this great demonstration of all these different manifestations of His names. Subhanallah. Are there any other thoughts from our participants? Otherwise, I will.
One more point. In the fourth section, we discussed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this the feature of speech. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the creation like a book, and He gave us the speech. So two manifestations we mentioned. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from His kalam, He has given us the speaking of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through our tongues. The whole universe, in this fifth section also we read, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made through His power, through His wisdom, He has made the universe speaking of him. They are silently speaking, Ya Jalil, Ya Kabir, Ya Azim. So they are glorifying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through these names of Allah. So yeah, the small animals, the very, very little creatures, they are also speaking of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Jamil, Ya Rahim, Ya Kareem. So He has given us through His kalam. We are glorifying Allah through our speech. So we are, Allah has made us as the uniqueness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's a hadiyah. So He made us speaking of Him through our comprehensiveness, through our being the caliph of the Allah in the earth. So representing the whole creatures, speaking of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, so everything is speaking of Allah. Everything is in their unison, glorifying Allah, either in the big volumes or in the small volumes. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Any other thoughts, insights? Otherwise, I would like to maybe read through the 6. We might not have a lot of time to discuss it in detail, but before I go to there, if there's any more insights about the 4th and 5th sections, I would be happy to hear them. If not, inshallah, I will go through the 6th. Okay, maybe I'll read through the 6th, and again, if there are insights on the previous sections as well, you will be welcome to chime in. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. 6th section. His Majesty in the former testifies that He is one, while His bounty in the latter proclaims that He is single. Its meaning is this: just as the majesty of Lordship, which is manifested in the totality of the universe, proves and demonstrates divine unity, wahdaniyat, so lordly bounty, which bestows on the members of animate creatures their regular provisions, proves and demonstrates divine oneness, ahadiyah. As for unity, wahdaniyah, it is to say that all those creatures belong to one, and they look to one, and they are the creation of one. Whereas by oneness, ahadiyah, is meant that most of the names of the creator of all things are manifested in all beings. For example, the light of the sun may be seen as analogous to unity, wahdaniyah, by reason of its comprehending the face of the earth, while the fact that its light and heat, the 7 colors in its light, and some sort of shadow of it are found in all transparent objects and drops of water, makes them analogous to oneness, ahadiyah. And the fact that most of the Maker's names are manifested in each single thing, especially in each animate creature, and above all in man, points to oneness, ahadiyah. Thus, this section indicates that the majesty of Lordship, rububiyyah, which has total disposal over the universe, makes the huge sun a servant, a lamp, and a stove for animate creatures on the face of the earth, and makes the mighty earth a cradle, a hostel, a place of trade for them, and fire, a cook and friend present everywhere, and clouds, strainers and wet nurses, and mountains, storehouses and treasuries, and the air, a fan for animate creatures, for breathing in and out, and water, a nurse who suckles new arrivals to life, and a seller of sweet drinks who supplies animals with the water of life. This divine lordship demonstrates divine unity most lucidly. Indeed, who other than the one creator could subjugate the sun so that it is a servant of the inhabitants of the earth? And who other than the single one of unity could take the wind in his hand, entrusting it with a great many duties and employing it as a swift and agile servant on the face of the earth? And who, apart from the single one of unity, would have the ability to make fire a cook and to cause a tiny flame the size of a match hat to consume thousands of tons of goods, and so on? Every single thing, every single element, every single heavenly body points to the all-glorious one of unity at the degree of majesty of lordship, rububiyyah. Thus, as divine unity is apparent in respect of glory and majesty, so bounty and munificence proclaim divine oneness, ahadiyya, in respect of beauty and mercy. This is because within this all-embracing art, animate creatures, and especially man, possess the faculties and abilities to understand, accept, and desire the infinite varieties of bounties and to reflect all the divine names manifested in the universe. Simply, like a point of focus, man, the human being, displays all the beautiful names together by means of his mirror-like essence, and through it proclaims Allah's oneness, ahadiyya. So, lots of good stuff here, I think. Maybe we might not have time to discuss all, but I think this example, especially this difference between Wahdaniya and Ahadiyya, which I think we might have gone into a little bit in some of the previous sessions. But I think with a good example of the sun reflecting on the whole face of the earth being analogous to Wahdaniya, and also the sun being manifested in, let's say, a drop of water at the same time as it does with the face of the earth, is analogous to Ahadiyya. But if there are more thoughts, maybe some final thoughts we can get from Colin Hocam, and inshallah next week it seems like we might need to continue this.
I liked your saying lots of good stuff here. You know, if someone when I'm very, very old asks me, why did you like the Risale? I will say, because it had lots of good stuff in it. You don't know how good.
Okay.
We don't know how good this stuff is, you know, really. I don't have any final thoughts, sorry, but I just wanted to say that when you were reading this, seeing how rich this is, why isn't everyone reading it? This is what I want to know. This is a big mystery to me. Why is everyone who can read English not reading this? Muslims, I mean. I don't understand that mystery, to be honest. Okay, we can say it's not a good translation, but that's not the point. You know, people read more difficult things for their studies. Why are people not reading this?
SubhanAllah.
Come on.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair. No, that's actually probably very good final thought in this, right? Any other final thoughts from maybe Jazma abi?
Yes, one point. Ustad, in many parts of the tafsir, he is attracting our attention to the two point of views, ma'nai harfi and ma'nai ismi. So the indicative meaning, other indicative meaning, and so the looking to the creatures for themselves or for others, other than itself. So Ustad here giving examples of the sun. So the sun. Generally the philosophy and the science looking for themselves, how it is sun, what is alluding to they do not touch mostly because of they are sticked in the nature, all the beings they do not consider why these are put there, why what is their functions, I mean their indicative meanings. So Ustad, in many parts of the tafsir, attracting our attention to the every being is there for introducing us our creator, who is my sustainer, who is my benefactor, put everything in the perfect way and benefiting me, and through that I am benefiting from the universe through these bestowals. So Ustad is giving in other parts the example of this, the lamp. Especially it came to my mind the 19th word after mentioning the nubuwwah, the prophethood of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is touching to the Quran, and the Quran's most important feature is this. So looking the beings, mentioning the universe for Allah, not for themselves, because they are not created for themselves. They are created, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created them to introduce himself to us, who is our creator, in that part. So Ustad is giving the example of sun again. وَجَعَلَ الشَّمْسَ سِرَاجًا, that ayah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning in the Surah Nur, by depicting the word lamp in the world in a form of palace, the things within it, decorations, necessities, provisions, the food put into it for the beings, prepared for human beings and living beings, inferring that the sun is also a subjugated candle holder. It makes known the mercy bestowal of the Creator. Now look and see what this foolish and prattling philosophy says. The sun is a vast burning liquid mass. It causes the planets which have been flung off from it to revolve around it. Its mass is such and such. It is this, it is that. It does not. So the science, the philosophy does not afford the spirit the satisfaction and fulfillment of true knowledge, just a trouble, dread, and fearful wonder. It does not speak of it as the Quran does. So only generally the Quran, when mentioning the universe, mentioning what is the function of it, how it is introducing us, our Creator, our Sustainer, most merciful, yes, benefactor, and so on. Yes, thank you.
Jazakallah. Oh, yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot for that difference here as well, right? Like how sciences, unfortunately, although they give us some details, but are not able to give us that illumination that that the Quran is giving us, such as the real purpose and the function of all things, which is to make us know the Creator. Jazakallah khair for that. We are out of time. If we have other insights?
Can I add one thing?
Go ahead.
I mean, his point about Risale reminded of me the flower of divine address in the fourth section, which we read in the start of this paragraph, this current verse. And I think Risale is a perfect, one of the good examples of that flower. So that's really very, very valuable.
Yeah, there are lots of flowers, and this is one of the very good scented roses, I think, of that speech. I agree. For that good comment. All right, I think we're out of time. If possible, maybe Ali Abi, would you like to make a dua? If you have other thoughts, you are welcome to contribute those too. If not, if you can make a dua for us.
Very nice sightings, comments we have listened, alhamdulillah. Inshallah, by making supplication, we can finish. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين ربنا أتمم لنا نورنا واغفر لنا إنك على كل شيء قدير ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين اللهم ارزقنا حبك وحب ما يقربنا إليك يا محول الحول والأحوال حول حالنا إلى أحسن الحال اللهم زدنا علما ونورا وحلما وآتنا نعمة ظاهرة ونعمة باطنة اللهم بحق سورة الإخلاص اجعلنا من عبادك المخلصين المخلصين آمين لله تعالى